So now you have a clear understanding of the key elements of a successful brand. We can now start to look at the importance of identifying your target audience. As coaches, this may be adventure centres, but this process is the same as each centre has its own culture and brand values. Target audience is a subject that marketing and branding professionals spend a significant amount of time on. Failing to identify the correct target audience risks wasting time and money, potentially attracting the wrong audience, or creating communications that are too generic to be effective. Focusing on a small business context, successfully reaching your target audience is in two stages. Number one, identifying it, considering the type of customer group that your business will appeal to. The smaller the target group, the more manageable it becomes to reach them. Researching it, get to know your target audience before you start to communicate with them. This process is just as applicable in a personal branding context. For example, there might be numerous potential employers that your brand will appeal to. So how do you narrow them down to make communicating with them a manageable proposition? I'm going to suggest some practical questions that you could adapt and apply to yourself. For example, when considering employers would you like to work for, such as when considering employers you'd like to work for, such as, will you only be targeting certain postcodes, towns or counties? Do you only want to target businesses of a certain size? Could you be more specific about the type of business? For example, if you've defined centres as your target audience, can you narrow that down to certain types of centres? A variety of research methods are also equally relevant to personal branding. Here are some. Searching online for forums, blogs that your target audience may belong to. Subscribing to publications that your target audience reads. Calling businesses you'd like to connect with to find out how they currently use your type of business or service. Finding out if your target audience belongs to a membership organisation or a group that has events, conferences, etc. that you could potentially attend. If you can gain a better idea of what organisation is looking for and whether that matches what you have to offer, and can identify key people to approach for more information, you can significantly enhance your chances of success when making applications. In the recruitment world, the more targeted and well-researched your application, the more likely you are to be invited for interview. Positioning your brand. Once the brand and audience are clear, the marketing professional's next step is to position the brand. A definition of brand positioning as the act of designing the company's offering and image to occupy a distinctive place in the minds of the target market. The Branding Journal explains. Brand positioning describes how a brand is different from its competitors and where or how it sits in customers' minds. A brand positioning strategy therefore involves creating brand associations in customers' minds to make them perceive the brand in a specific way. The following examples of brand positioning using brand taglines from past and present illustrates the different ways in which a brand might be positioned. So, focusing on the benefit. Volvo for life. M&M's. Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Focusing on the customer. Facebook. Helps you connect and share with the people in your life. Sainsbury's. Live well for less. Focusing on how the company does business. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik. I've been practicing that one. Advancement through technology. Burger King. Have it your way. Focusing on the competition. Apple. Think different. And Avis, we're number 2, we try harder. As the more concise message of social media marketing grow in popularity, taglines are often used less frequently. But this categorization of how to position your brand might be useful when considering your own personal brand. For example, you might emphasize the benefits a potential employer will gain through hiring you, highlighting the skills, knowledge and experience you bring to the role. It might focus on the employer as a consumer, explaining how you can make their life easier. It can explain how you do business, showcasing your values and how they align with those of the organization, or clarify the ways in which you are better than your competitors, although it is important to do this in a way that doesn't make you appear overtly competitive, as that can backfire coaches, as if that could ever be true. Once a company has positioned its brand, it must ensure that the messages it shares about the brand are consistent. This too has strong parallels with personal branding, as you'll see in the final section. A consistent message. Brands know that delivering a consistent message is crucial in winning the trust of customers, so they present the same message over and over again. If customers know and trust the brand, they feel more likely to demonstrate brand loyalty and become effective brand ambassadors. So here's a Starbucks example. What would you think if you walked into a Starbucks and the barista got your tall, half-caff, iced, non-fat latte wrong? You'd probably say that that's a first world problem and not fret too much about it and go about your day. Where if you went into a different location the next day and your order was mishandled once again? Part of the brand promise of Starbucks is that you'll receive a customized beverage that perfectly suits your palate and your diet, no matter how complex the details of your order are. How many times would you be willing to experience inconsistency before you switch to a different caffeine dealer? Let me go on to make my point that brand consistency doesn't mean you can't change. I stress this regularly because I feel that we are all about change, and that's exactly what we're attending these sessions for. So you can't change anything about what you do. Change and the ability, motivation and inclination to do so are the essence that we're talking about. But let me stress the point that these are tiny changes for the better. The Virgin brand is a good example of that. The history of organisation incorporates 1960 student magazine, 1970 record stores and record label, 1980s video games, airline, holidays, balloon fights and hotels, 1990 a radio station and cinemas, 2000 trains and a mobile phone network, 2010s space travel and banking. What remains consistent across the Virgin Empire are its brand values: providing heartfelt service, being delightfully surprising, red hot and straight up, while maintaining an insatiable curiosity and creating smart disruption. And its purpose, changing business for good. That's Virgin's purpose in 2018. So consistent message. Think back to when you asked 3 people to describe you in 3 words. Did each of them use the same or similar words when describing you, or were they different? Being consistent is equally important in what you say and what you do. The two should be closely aligned. So, task 1 for Y3, what you do. In many social and business situations, people ask us what you do. Take a few minutes to think about how you currently answer that question and write down your thoughts. For example, you might say, I'm a coach. Then watch Simon's video on Padlet and then answer the question again. I will ask you the question again in our Zoom 3 session after you've watched Simon's video. I will post the document on Padlet for task 2, Y3, which is the brand colours. So look at the list of characteristics associated with each colour and decide which one best represents your own personal brand. Write the colour in your book and some of the characteristics, and we'll discuss it at the next Zoom meeting. So that was just a little recap of the 2 tasks of this mammoth session. Thank you for your patience, but hopefully by now I'm convinced that you can describe the key elements of a successful brand, appreciate the concept of target audience, and recognise the importance of positioning the brand correctly. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm looking forward to our Zoom discussion next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.